Before we get started with today's podcast, we'd like to ask returning listeners to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast platform, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you really enjoy it, share a link to this podcast with friends or family who would enjoy hearing our weekly discussions about basketball and basketball culture. Now, on to the show.
Yeah, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot, 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Bring it into the
On this week's edition of the High Volume Shooters, it's me and David Levitch. David Levitch is a basketball player who played at the University of Louisville. David, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, man, for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right, so we start out every episode really with, like, what's your history in basketball? So kind of give us a little brief history of your basketball history going back.
I played at North Oldham High School, which is where I coach now. So I played there. I played AAU my whole life. I played on a very successful AAU team. Then as AAU in high school, I got older, started getting college interest, and had a bunch of D1, preferred walk-ons, had D2 offers, and then Louisville came around, and, I didn't really even consider anybody else after that. So I committed to Louisville right before my senior season of high school, which was also good because I didn't have to really worry about anything because I knew where I was going.
Yeah, what AAU team did you play for?
The Ville.
God, who all played with you on that team?
Oh, man, it started when I was in fifth grade. We had an older team and a younger team. I've had all kinds of players. We had Omar Perut, who's in almost in the Euro League. We had Dominique Hawkins, who played at Kentucky. I'm sure you know who that is. Yeah. We had Daryl Hicks, who won a state championship at Trinity, played at Boston College. We had we had all kinds of dudes. We had James Quick, who was the receiver at Louisville, Jason Hatcher, who was a defensive end at Kentucky. This is just my grade. Quinn Snyder played with us a little bit. Ray Spalding played on my brother's team. Tons of guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
So North Oldham is right by Louisville, right?
Yeah, it's right. It's 10 minutes past Prospect, and Prospect is basically in Louisville. So it's out there, but it's not. It's pretty much in Louisville.
So was Louisville did you grow up a Louisville fan?
Yeah, I went to Louisville games my whole life. We had season tickets when they were at Freedom Hall, a couple rows behind the bench, and then obviously got season tickets when the Yum Center opened. So I was only a Louisville fan. I was a big Rick Pitino fan too. That was a whole nother part of me going there.
And now, a word from our sponsor. A-Zip Pizza is a build-your-own pizza place in Indiana and Kentucky. They have unique pizzas each month, like the White Lightning, an Alabama white barbecue pizza, and a ton of ingredients you can choose from to create something delicious on your own. Order online for curbside delivery at azippizza.com/order. Now, back to the show.
So we've done a couple podcasts on, and I say the Yum Center is one of the most underrated arenas in the country, just because of the atmosphere, how quality it is. If you're just a fan, you can be a middle-aged man and have a good time there. I think it's one of the great places to be at.
Yeah, it's kind of more of an NBA, because I played in a lot of NBA arenas too, because of you playing like Madison when you're in college. So it's kind of like an NBA arena. It's kind of got the crowd's nothing. I don't think the crowd's anything like it used to be in terms of loud, and it's kind of mellowed out. Coach Max obviously brought some more excitement in, so I'm sure it'll continue to get better. But I think it's it's got a nice feel of students and then just fans. It's not like if you go play at Duke and the only thing you hear is the fans, or like even Grand Canyon or just places like that where it's just literally students.
Yeah, so I went to the Michigan game this year. I'm a big Michigan fan.
Yeah, I heard that game was nuts.
It was nuts, and I didn't have great seats for that game, but it's still just the entertainment value of that. I always tell people it's like an NBA arena, but it's a huge arena too. I always compare everything to Assembly Hall, because Assembly Hall is just, I think it's such a tough place to play at, and everybody here is an Indiana fan except for me. So I always compare the two, but I said Give me a game at the Yum Center over Assembly Hall any day.
Yeah, I've actually been to Assembly Hall. My brother, when he was a sophomore at Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne, they actually beat him his freshman year, and then they played at Assembly Hall his sophomore year, and they beat him again. So I was at that game. But Assembly Hall it's more of a real college type feel.
It is. I always say it's a dump, but it's a tough place to play at.
The Yum Center is also not on campus, which is a little different to most college places. Most college arenas are on campus.
Yeah, but the cool part about that is that you can drink there. It's got a cool feel, like the elevators. I almost feel like I was at Banker's Life whenever I went there too.
Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely an NBA field type arena.
We went there to a game, I think 3 or 4 years ago when they played Carolina at home and they won in overtime, and that place was rowdy that day.
Yeah, when I was in college, my sophomore year, we had the most unbelievable comeback against North Carolina. It was crazy when I just remember Quinn Snyder threw a lob falling down from half court to Montrez, and Montrez caught it and dunked it, and the place was – but, yeah, no, they definitely can get loud in there.
So what years did you go to Louisville?
I was there from 13 to 17. So I was there. My freshman year was the year after the national championship.
That hurts.
It does hurt, but yeah, it people tell me that it's just bad draw. But I mean, I still played in the Elite Eight game. We made it to the Sweet 16. I still had some good experiences. Obviously, my junior year we didn't go to the tournament because we got self banned, but it was still fun.
Louisville's such an interesting place right now because of the history. So I go back and say that Louisville is a better job than what people give it credit for, because George taken them to the ACC and how they've have made a seamless transition to the ACC and competed in the ACC, and their facilities are phenomenal there. Yeah,
George did. And when I first started going to Louisville, it was, it was nice. But by the time I was a senior, and even now, it's even little things like the streets and everything that he did, everything about the campus is because it's not in the best location. It's kind of more, it's pretty much, in, the inner city. And they've really made it out to be a super campus.
No, it's an awesome place. Jurich is, regardless of what people think about him, he's got to go down as one of the great athletic directors of all time because of what he did for that place and what the athletic facilities and where all the programs were at when he took over as to when he left.
Yeah, because when I was there, we had Lamar Jackson in football. Our baseball team was obvious. Our baseball team's always good. We were good. Our soccer team was one in the country. And every sporting event, I just remember when I was there, no matter what it was a big deal.
So take me back to high school. So North Oldham is not that old of a school, right?
No, the first year was 2002, I want to say.
Yeah, I did a little look back on it. It's a pretty big school though for Kentucky, isn't it?
We have 970 kids. There's actually 3 schools in my county: Oldham County, South Oldham, and North Oldham. North Oldham's the oldest. Oldham County is by far the most kids. Oldham County has, I want to say 18. They used to have more, but I want to say 1,800 kids. South Oldham has 14 to 1,500, and we have 900, 950, I think.
That's crazy because in Indiana, Carmel has over 5,000 students.
Yeah, but these 3 schools, I got a kid that lives in the South Oldham district and goes to North. They're so close to each other in a way that it's so spread out now, which is good because there's 4 middle schools that feed into 3 high schools, so it kind of gets spread out the way. But yeah, there's Indiana schools and basketball is a little different than how Kentucky basketball is.
Yeah, so what's the competition like between those 3 schools in the county?
When I took over, we were North was kind of in a down spot, and I got lucky I got 4 8th graders when I got the job that were unbelievably good. One of them's exceptionally good. And then my first year, we did all right. And then my second year, I got the transfer from Montverde Academy that's ranked 70th in the country, who's going to Auburn this year. He was a senior last year. So I got him, got a bunch of guys. I got another transfer. So usually it's always been OC and South, but we beat South last year for the first time in a while. OC was 27-3 last year. They beat us at their place. We only played them once. But usually they're usually kind of equal. North's been down before I got the job, about 5 years, but I think we're going to start to turn the tide on them because I got a bunch of kids now.
So how good is it Justin Powell? Is that who it is?
No, it was unfortunate because it's funny because when I was in North Oldham, so, I'm only 16, 17, he was like 11, 10 years old, and everybody knew he was going to be good. Like, he was always the little kid running his mouth at camp, killing everybody. And then he ended up starting North Oldham his 8th grade year. Then he went to Trinity, played with Jay Scrubs and David Johnson, and then he went to Montverde and didn't like it. And then when I got the job at North, he called me that December and came back, and we actually had him for 2 years, but he couldn't play his junior year because of the transfer thing, which is a whole nother story. So, but yeah, he was. We lost in the championship of the King of the Bluegrass. We beat the #1 team in the state by like 10 points. So, yeah, we were definitely good with him. And then he got hurt and didn't play the last 2 months.
Will he have a legit shot to going to play early at Auburn?
Yeah, he's pretty good. He's got a 40-inch vertical. He can shoot. He's a 6'7" guard. Pretty good.
They don't grow like that often.
No, he was EYBL in the EYBL tournament in April. He led the tournament in 3-point shooting. He had 30 on Mac Irvin Fire. So, he's not just a kid that plays in school. When you're ranked top 70 in the country, you're pretty good.
Yeah, you can play. So are the game, like when you guys, is it really competitive between, like, who's your biggest rival out of those two?
South Oldham's our biggest rival. The North-South game is a sellout every year. OC's a rivalry too, but it's more North-South is the main one. And then OC's got, South and us. And OC's a rivalry for us, but the North-South game is – but the North-OC game has honestly turned into a big one too, but the North-South game has always been the main one.
So were you a killer in high school?
I was pretty good.
How many points did you score in your high school career?
1,900, just like right before 19, right at 1,900 almost.
So this podcast is named after the high volume shooters, and the guy who founded 19.9 is a huge high volume shooter fan. And doing some research on you the other night, like, people talk about you as a high volume shooter, right? Yeah, that was. I wasn't just a shooter, but that was my main, I guess you call it, attribute on the court. But I was just a standstill shooter. But that was definitely probably my specialty was shooting. So you walked on to Louisville, right?
Yeah, I was a preferred walk on. Yeah, pretty much.
And then ended up getting a scholarship though, right?
Yeah, I got one. I got it my junior year, and I always knew I could if I really worked hard. And luckily, I got the opportunity to. So
it's kind of a similar story. There's a guy from Evansville, Kyle Couric.
Oh, yeah. And Kyle was obviously a better, player. And Kyle Couric, actually, his game, the last game in Freedom Hall when he had like 20 in the second half, is honestly my best U of L basketball moment ever.
Really? When he closed down Freedom Hall?
Yes, that was probably the best. That's like the one game I'll always remember was at that game. It was insane.
So it's crazy because people from Evansville, no matter where, like anytime people like that go off and play, but it was always kind of a surprise because Couric was always like very passive in basketball. Like his game was never like flat. It was flashy, but he never had to have the basketball. Yeah. And so people thought he'd struggle at Louisville. And actually he was like a perfect fit for those Louisville teams because he did everything for them. Yeah, no, he was, people don't really, he was super athletic too. He's a 40-inch vertical guy too. Yeah, no, he's somewhere close to it. He could shoot the ball. He's still playing overseas. I think he's on Barcelona, which is the Euro League. So obviously he's still doing well. Yeah, he can play. So after Louisville, what do you do then? I actually started the Horse Capper, the website I do, and then I started working for my dad, who's in the liquor industry. So I started doing that right out of college. So how I know you is from Horse, just overlapping and finding on Twitter. So how long have you been a Horse guy? My entire life. My dad was he still owns horses, but he used to be a big horse owner. And I've been doing it my whole life. I remember when they had newspapers when I was a little kid, like looking at the newspaper for the entries at Churchill and Ellis and all those and all the big tracks. So I've always been in horse racing. It's just always been a part of me. It's my whole family. My dad's we got horse pictures all over the house from winnings everywhere. So it's funny. I went back and read your bio and your favorite athlete other than basketball player is Irad Ortiz Jr. Yeah. I take credit for this one. Actually, one of my dad's partners is Pete McLaughlin, who is Kieran McLaughlin's brother. Yeah.
So back when I started riding in like 2011 or 12, they told me there was this guy that was real good and nobody knew about him. So because I was in New York, and this was when I really got into horse racing. This is in high school. I shouldn't admit this. But I started following him right when he started. And everybody's like, he's just going to be good. And now that he's that good, I take credit for being his number one fan, honestly. But he is
this is back
rider.
Oh yeah, he's the best.
Yeah, I do think he's the best, and I'm not being biased, but I do think he really is the best. Right, he moves horses up all the time.
So, is horse racing your biggest passion?
Yeah, basketball, but they're different. They're very different. Like when I was in college, I worked for Norman Cassie, who at the time worked for his dad, Mark Cassie. And when I worked for Norman, I was very lucky. I don't know if you remember the horse Tepin. You remember Tepin?
Yep.
They had Tepin, World Approval, who both won Breeders' Cups. They had Classic Empire, who was in the Derby. He was a 2-year-old at the time. He actually broke his maiden Derby week when I worked for him in the slop. But there was a ton of, at that time, he had unbelievable horses. They had other horses who won Grade 2s while I was there. So that was a good experience. Being around horses, I just remember hot walking Tepin, and it's literally the most nerve-wracking 20 minutes because, she's worth millions of dollars, things like that. But that was a good experience too.
So that's kind of how my horse racing background is. So Ellis Park's right down the street, right?
Yeah.
So one of my best friend worked for Ron Moquette when he was at Ellis, and he basically would like hot walk him. And so we went on the backside when we were in high school. I mean, we were 16, 17 years old, sitting with Ron in his barn and not knowing any different and being exposed from that side. And my buddy would talk about walking horse. He's like, it's intimidating, but you can't let a horse. He's like, it's just different. So I was always timid around them because they're huge animals.
It's kind of an adrenaline rush, to be honest, because it's like when you grab the shank and put it on them, you like feel their power. And you obviously, they're not really when one started jumping and kicking, you're like, oh dear. And you just hold on, but they're not really. It's honestly, I was a hot walker too. That's really all I did. I had to do it for an internship in my major. I was like, I might as well just do it with one of my best friends at the track. So that's why I did that. But no, it's kind of an adrenaline rush.
So do you still talk to Norm?
Oh yeah. He's he actually trains my dad's horses now.
Really?
Yeah.
How old is he?
He is 32, 33.
So he's young.
Yeah, he's mid to early 30s. I think he's 33.
Gosh. So McLaughlin got out of it. Were you shocked by that, or did you see that one coming?
I'm one of my other best friends is his nephew, Pete's son. So I kind of, when that whole New York labor thing started to happen, and then, Kieran has his physical issues as well. I think on top of the physical issues, when the New York labor thing kind of happened, it gave him and like, honestly, like people say it's a big deal, but when you walk into getting Luis Saez's book, I don't really think that's a bad ordeal.
No, not at all.
No, he's probably a top 5 jockey in the country, and he makes all kinds of money. So it's not like he retired and didn't have his backup plan was pretty darn good.
Yeah, and it's a lot less stressful, and it doesn't have to do all that crazy stuff.
No, and Kieran obviously had a great career with Shadwell and Godolphin. So pretty good
stables there. Huh?
He won the Dubai World Cup. He had all kinds of good horses. Frost had all kinds of good ones.
So what would be your goal in the horse racing business? Like, do you want to do you like the horse racing business to get into it, or like, what's your goal with that?
I don't know what I really have a goal. I like doing tip sheets. When I first started doing tip sheets, I'm like, what happened was all my buddies would ask me, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to try this. And then, I'm not famous, but I do have a name around here in a way. So I kind of started to pick up recognition, and now where I'm at, I actually do sell a very good amount of sheets, and it's kind of become, I don't want to say I become a well-known person in the, but people do.
But in those circles, your name has value. Like, you give a good sheet, like people know that you're actually, you're involved in it. You're not just doing it to make a buck. Like you enjoy it.
A lot of people say sheets are like, people are like sheets are just for people, to use money to bet with. And that's not really why I do it. Honestly, like when I have a sheet and a pick 4 hits for, I don't know, $3,000, honestly, I get more enjoyment out of people telling me they won instead of myself winning. So it's kind of become like I get enjoyment out of people winning money because I know, some people buy the sheet and have a bad day and then never come back. But a lot of people, coming back and always buying it is, I like that.
But the good part about it is like I buy the sheet and I may handicap it, but I'll use it as a frame of reference. Like I text you the other day, like I needed the 11 to get home because I had the horse in the front and I used your pick in the second leg of the day in the daily double and hit it because of that. I wouldn't play that horse.
Buy sheets, and I don't think one person bets every single thing a sheet maker does. I think a lot of sheets are people buy them to use them for references if races they're confused in or if they want to look at an opinion on something.
So you think the horse business will always be a part of your life?
Yeah, for sure. I want to be an owner one day, but obviously everybody knows how expensive it is to be a horse owner.
It seems like it's gotten like crazy, ridiculously expensive lately.
It just depends it just depends what some trainers are 70 a day. I'm Todd Pletcher and the main guys are, I would say probably 110 a day, but you're also getting Todd Pletcher and Chad Brown. It just depends who you train with. And right now, a lot of owners are in trouble because a lot of places are running, but luckily Churchill's opening.
They open what, next Saturday?
Yeah, next Saturday.
How's their card going to be when they open up?
They're going to be unbelievable. I'm good friends with a bunch of people at Churchill, and the rumor is, you got Pletcher coming, Chad Brown coming, Javier's already coming, Joel Rosario, Johnny V, the Ortiz brothers. Everybody's going to be here until Belmont opens. So it's going to be I've already looked at the condition books. It's definitely going to be a good. They're only open, I think, a month and a week, but it's definitely going to be good for a month and a week.
Do we think Keeneland's going to open back up?
I'm hearing rumors they're trying to run they're going to do it in July or August, and they're just going to they're going to be open for like a week and just try to run all their stakes races.
Really?
Because a lot of these horses, Keeneland has so many prestigious races. I think they're just going to try to have, this is a rumor, they're just going to try to have like a super week.
I'm in. But it's crazy because Ellis Park. So like, I don't think people understand that all the Kentucky tracks run at a certain time.
Yeah.
Like Ellis has
work.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting how it's all going to fit together. So what's Derby going to be like? How's this trail going to work for all the Derby stuff now? Well,
Churchill doesn't usually have Derby preps because they run the Derby. But I did see like the Matt Winn, which is a race usually a month after the Derby, is going to be like 10 points. I'm sure when New York announces when they open, races like the Belmont, the Jim Dandy, the Travers, the Peter Pan, all those races will be rewarded points in a way. I don't think they'll be 100, but the Travers might be 100 points. But then you'll have like the Haskell will be points. You'll have you'll probably have, I don't want to say it, I'd probably say 10 to 12 more point races leading up to the Derby. Obviously, like the Matt Winn's only 10 points. There's going to probably be a couple 10 points, maybe a couple 20s, couple 50s.
Are you on Team Nadal?
I'm Team Nadal over Charlatan all day long.
I am too. So I actually bet the 4 in that race, and I had like I thought he ran a great race, and I thought he was actually going to get Nadal. And it's the 2 times I bet against Nadal, and it's like they look him in the eye and it's gone. Like he just pulls away. It's crazy.
Well, when people look at a racing form, they usually are like, oh, Charlatan's won by 8, 10, and whatever. He's also had the 3 easiest trips. If you look at Nadal, his San Vicente, he won by half a length, but Baffert said he wasn't even training for the race. He was just that good. He fought, and then in the next race in the Rebel, he dueled the speed and then held off the closer. And then in that race, he dueled the speed, who also like won the Louisiana Derby. That horse came 6th. He dueled him, went by him, and then held off. So he's actually done – the times and everything might be relevant, but you got to look at the – fact of how he's winning. It's in the Derby. I don't know. He just looks like, I just like him. He's big and imposing. So,
and Charlatan's never been like, I watched that the other day.
Yeah, that was a great allowance race.
Yeah. I mean, it was the worst field against him. They let him get out, and granted, he's fast. Like there's not catching him once he gets there either.
Oh, he definitely.
But at some point in time, he's got to run versus somebody.
Yeah.
So you think Nadal goes, so what will be the point from them going from this race now? What's their next race to go to get ready for the Derby preps?
I saw Baffert talking about he's going to bubble wrap them. I'm sure one of them will go to the Haskell, which is opening weekend of I think it's opening weekend in Monmouth, maybe June. I think it's June 6th or something. No, July 6th. I mean, it's July 6th opening weekend. So I'm sure Charlatan will go there. Nadal looks like a horse that can, probably go to a race like the Belmont or something around there, maybe even the Saratoga. But I definitely think Charlton will go to the Haskell.
Who is your favorite horse of all time?
One that people would know would be Orb. Actually, Orb is in Long River. Long River, I don't even know if people are going to know who Long River is, but Orb is probably one to recognize. When I was younger, they didn't really have, and I'm not saying I'm old, but when I was younger, they didn't really have online wagering. It wasn't really a big thing yet when I was like 15 or 16. So we used to go to the track, and Orb broke his maiden at Aqueduct. And I remember like it was yesterday. It was literally at Aqueduct, and I was sitting at the OTB at Churchill. And then from there on, went in the Derby, and all that was kind of cool because I followed him. But him and Long River.
So Churchill's your main place, right?
Yeah, to go to, yeah. But Churchill, they were struggling about 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if people know this, but their main special purses were like $32,000 at one point. They're up to literally, they're 79 right now because casinos are out. But I mean, Churchill has done a full 180 in terms of how much better the racing has been. But yeah, Churchill's my home track.
And to that point, we would sit at Ellis Park and people would say, once the Derby was over, you don't bet Churchill. Small fields, there was no purse money in it. Now, like, their dirt races are about as good as anybody's around.
Yeah, and that's what has kind of happened with the gaming thing. It's kind of brought purses back, but at the same time, when people go where the money is, so they're starting to flock to Churchill. And I mean, and because nobody knows what's going to happen in New York because of the thing. If New York doesn't open until July 1st, this Churchill meet is going to be. It's already going to be good, but if you got all the New York trainers, the good ones here too, it's just going to be real good.
Can they take all that on?
Yeah, because you can ship in and out. There's going to be, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of, entry boxes, horses that don't get in, but that's a good problem to have. You can run 12 races instead of 9 races.
So when you were, say, like 15 years old, could you go bet at Churchill?
I mean, I'm not allowed to say yes, but yes.
Yeah, same with that. So like we used to go play Legion baseball games, and Ellis runs from, Memorial Day to Labor Day. Yeah,
they close Labor Day.
Yeah, so we would go for, like, if we were playing Madisonville and Legion, we would go to Ellis Park and bet John K. Court. I mean, this was probably 17, 18 years ago. I mean, I was 16, 17 years old, and the guys were awesome. Like, we'd take $20 there for the whole day. And it was so cool because we were all young. We didn't know what we were doing. And just to be able to do that was like where my love for the track came from that. And Ellis's went in spurts. It was a dump. And then the last couple of years Brad Cox has been here. There's been some, Asmussen's brought some really good maidens here too. So like, it's been a better.
Also helped Ellis Park out as well. Now, I don't know what Ellis is going to do this year. I'm sure Churchill will figure it out. But without the gaming, I don't really know. It's going to be interesting because I don't know how open gaming and the governor. I mean, if it's open in June, the Ellis will be fine. But Ellis's purses were so good last year. A lot of guys didn't go to Saratoga. A lot of some trainers just didn't ship. They shipped 20 horses instead of 40. The big ones, like Brad Cox and those kind of guys, because the purse money. Ellis was so good.
Yeah, Dale Roman sent a couple horses, but that's what they were. There was articles out last year that it was expensive to ship to Saratoga, and that Ellis's maiden races were strong, and they did a good job with the purses. That they were running. They're running good maiden races here.
Yeah, no, Ellis definitely. Dennis's Moment debuted there. Obviously, Dennis's Moment has not turned out to be a good horse.
I can't believe he went off at 4-5, and everybody knew it too.
Yeah, the hype train when you win by 19 like that. But man, I don't know whatever happened in the Breeders' Cup when he fell and hit his nose. I don't know what that did to him, but it did something to him.
He's never been close to the same.
No, not even training well. I mean, he was training terrible going into it. And training's not everything, but if the word is out, you don't want to bet a horse at even money that's training bad in a big race.
So one of my all-time favorite horses is Arrogate.
Yeah.
And the race, what was that, in Dubai?
Yeah, that's honestly, I was at Turfway Park that day for the Spiral. That's probably the most impressive race I've ever watched.
So I fell in love with him because I bet him in the Travers, and he just he goes off in like 22 and change 44. I'm like, there's no way he's gonna go, and he just runs off
that day too.
And then I fell in love with him there, and then I watched the race in Dubai and they're like, if he wins from here, he's much the best. And from that race on, though, he never really ran well again.
Yeah, his his 4 to 5 race streak is probably the best one of all time.
See, that I've always said that he was like him and American Pharoah, what people know would be like in their small sample sizes were as good as I saw. Because my first Derby was American Pharoah's Derby. I'd never been until, which is crazy to say that. I was 28 years old when I went to my first Derby.
Yeah.
And it happened to be a good one.
That American Pharoah and Arrowgate, Arrowgate was good. Great. But I don't know. I feel like you never really American Pharoah won a bunch of 3-year-old races in the Triple Crown, which is obviously hard to do. But I think you never really got to see his full potential, I'm sure, because he didn't even run at 4.
No. Are we seeing more people run at 4 now than what we have in the past?
I do think a little bit of it is coming back. I think it all just depends on the trainer. Like some guys, Todd Pletcher, who I'm Todd Pletcher's biggest fan. Like I literally think he's also one of the nicest guys I've ever met, but he's also a fantastic trainer. Some guys kind of make their horses, so cranked up to win these Triple Crown races because a lot of people don't understand if you win a grade 1, you're automatically going to get a stud deal. So people like him crank horses up to win grade 1s early so they get their stud deal. Some trainer, I think it just depends on the trainer. Why American Pharoah's owners had no choice but to not retire him because of the money that was being offered for him. Well, obviously they struggle a little bit with that money, but the owners, they had a little problem with the obviously they're in trouble right now, but it's hard to turn down stud deals.
No, and he studded really well too.
Yeah, Baffert always said he would be good on grass, and his horses have actually – it's kind of like Orb. Orb's horses can't run on dirt for some reason. Not that American Pharoah's can, but like Orb has been all grass.
So, who's your favorite trainer now?
Well, Norman's my best friend, but Todd Pletcher is my favorite. I mean, Norman and Todd, but I'm a big Todd Pletcher guy.
I get that. You're true to Pletcher.
Yeah, when I worked for Norman, which was – I don't know. I was just junior to senior. I met Todd Pletcher Derby weekend, which is kind of cool because he's also walking 5 of his Derby horses out. And I met him when he was, going early training. No joke. 2 to 3 years. I think it was 3 years later at Saratoga. I'm walking through the paddock, and he stopped me and remembered who I was. He's like, "You used to work for Normandy." I was like, "How do you remember that?" So it was kind of one of those things, like like trainers, just like people say, big trainers don't remember every horse they have, and he remembered who I was 3 years later at Saratoga in the paddock. So. He's just always been he's a nice guy and has good horses. For
people that don't know, he's as big as there is. Him, Chad Brown, and Bob Backford, those are the 3. But for him to pick you out 3 years later when you were, not to say a nobody, but kind of a nobody for Norm Cassie,
because I was just a hot walker, but he actually, when I met Todd, he actually cracked a funny joke, but we can't talk about that joke on air.
Hey, this is as open as you can get. You can cuss, you can do whatever on this. We have no rules. We always say nobody's listening anyways.
Well, when I was working for Norman, Norman was like, yeah, he plays basketball for Louisville. And this is literally the first time I ever met Todd Pletcher. He has no idea who I am. He just knows I play for Louisville. He pauses. He doesn't say a word for 2 seconds. And then this is not what he goes, yeah, how are those parties at Louisville? And I was just not expecting it at all for him to ask me that. And obviously, I didn't, get involved with all that stuff, but it was just funny that he asked me that.
So go to that. Do you still talk to Patino ever?
Yeah, Patino's one. I went to Breeders' Cup last year, and I went to the track with him for a whole day and went to dinner with them. And I see him when I can because he was in Greece. And now he's back in the States now, but we still talk and text, and it's usually about horse related.
He seems like a good dude just from the outside looking in.
Yeah, he's one of the he's great. He was great to play for. He's one of the nicest people I've been around. He was an intense coach, but everybody knew that, so you had to expect it when you were going in.
So we've always talked about his run at Kentucky. From 90, what was it when he takes over an 89?
Yeah, people forget.
They're suspended for 1 or 2 years. In the 5-year run, I think it's 91 to 96 when he wins a national championship, multiple Elite Eights. I think he went to 2 Final Fours. He had that place absolutely rolling at Kentucky.
Yeah, people forget how good his teams were.
So I went back and looked. There was a debate on Twitter, and someone said that Kentucky's best team was 12, and I went back and argued that it wasn't a top 2 Kentucky team. And so I think we went back and looked at the 96 Kentucky team.
Yeah, that was the year.
I want to think he had 8 NBA players on that team.
Yeah,
I know he had at least 5 guys that had like legitimate careers in the NBA.
Yeah, no, he always talked about how good that team was, and I think I remember him always saying I was one of the best teams in college basketball ever.
It's got to be Walter McCarty, Tony Delk, Antoine Walker.
Yep, they also had a guy that doesn't get as much credit as he should, but they had Wayne Turner, who was actually one of the coaches at U of L when I was there, and he was
really.
Yeah, he was one of Coach P always said he was one of the best, but they had so many guys.
So you said you were a Patino fan. Were you a Kentucky fan growing up because of him?
No,
or were you too young?
I was very young when he was.
Yep.
At 96, I was 2 years old. So it was U of L.
Will there ever get to a point where him and Louisville become like cordial again or not?
I don't really have an answer to that, but if I had a gut feeling, I don't think he has hard feelings towards Louisville. I just, it's kind of over now. So it's kind of like in the past. But I don't have an answer to that, honestly. I'm not, I'm not him, but I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of over now that he's got a new job too. He's kind of, obviously it was a disappointing ending to what was a great, 18-year run, 15-year run, whatever he was there for. But
we went back and looked at that run. That run's crazy good too, because obviously Crum did a great job there, but going from where Louisville was in Conference USA and ending up competing in the ACC and never really missing a beat and going into what I think has been the best league in the country for 20 straight years.
Yeah, because when we were in the AAC my freshman year, we beat UConn 3 times that year, and they won it all. We beat them by 30 in the conference championship game.
Might be the worst team to ever win a national championship, too, by the way.
The worst. The coach got fired a few years later after he won the national championship, which does not happen very often. No.
And it was the Butler UConn game was one of the worst national championship games ever.
Yeah, that was an entirely just an odd season. Team got hot at the right time.
So what do you do now? You like coaching high school basketball? Is that like you going to do that for a while?
Yeah, I actually really enjoy it. I started, this would be my 3rd year coming up, and like I said earlier, when I got the job, I had 4 8th graders that were, because I got the job 2 days after practice started, like October 17th, which never happens. The old coach released right when practice started. So when I got there, I already had my players. They already, you can't make any changes already. But I had 4 8th graders. I have a kid named Dallas Roberts. So I'm going to, I really enjoy it. It's like 5 minutes from where I live. It's where I went to high school. I enjoy it.
You talked about being in Kentucky where you don't have to teach and you can still do it. I do think that's a great thing because not every coach wants to teach. And there's a lot of guys who want to have careers and not be stuck in the building, but also still want to coach basketball. So I think Kentucky does a good job with that, where Indiana, it's very, very rare to see that happen unless you're at like a small private school or something like that, where, Indiana's it's just different how that works.
Yeah. And I think me playing at North Oldham, they already knew who I was. The AD now was there when I was there. The principal there now was on staff when I was there. So they all knew who I was. So I kind of think that helped my cause in terms, because I already knew everybody, all the teachers, everything that was going on. So it's not me not teaching there. It's not like I had to get used to everything because I already knew everybody.
So what was it like at Louisville when you were there? You guys had a bunch of good athletic teams. Like, you're a local guy, you're a basketball player. We always say that's like the envy of everybody. Like, Louisville was kind of rocking at the time when you were there. Yeah. What was it like being a basketball player on a good team at Louisville?
Oh, it was a great experience. When I was there, we had Russ Smith, Terry Rozier, Montrezl Harrell, Damian Lee. I could go on. Ray Spalding, Quentin. We had, I think, 7 or 8 NBA players when I was there. So I was there when everybody, a lot of players came through. It was, I had a great time. That was the best decision I ever made.
Was Donovan Mitchell there too?
Oh yeah. I don't know how I forgot about him. He was there 2 years while I was there.
Who was the best out of all those guys that you played with, you saw every day?
Terry was the best. Terry was really? He's not as flashy as Donovan is, but he just has it in him. And obviously he's making $20 million a year now, so he's doing pretty well.
So when we saw Scary Terry in Boston, like you weren't surprised about that at all?
No, he was always what they call a dog. I mean, he brought it every day, every workout. He was extremely talented on offense and defense, super athletic. He was a brutal to guard.
You got some tick on some really good teams though, right?
Yeah, because when I first got there, I was kind of the victory cigar my first year. It was I played a lot more as a freshman than I thought because we obliterated so many teams in our conference that I actually got a chance to play some. And then as I got older, I started a game my sophomore year, and then my senior year I started 4 games. So I actually got to play a lot. And actually, if I didn't play with my first 2 years we had Terry, and my other 2 years we had Donovan. I mean, we had a couple decent guys at my position while I was there.
That makes it tough.
Yeah, and Damian Lee was there, who's obviously a good NBA player now. They were all around my position. So when I was there, it was hard to get on the court at times because of, who was there.
What did you go into it thinking as a walk-on or as a preferred walk-on that you would actually get tick, or were you kind of surprised?
No, because obviously you had to work for it, but Tim Henderson before me was a kid the same position as me, and Pitino didn't really treat preferred walk-ons as walk-ons. He gave everybody a fair shot. It didn't matter who, it didn't matter who you were, if you were a preferred walk-on or a scholarship player, he gave her. I literally, when I my 4 years, mainly my last year, I practiced sophomore, junior, senior every single second of practice, and I never came out. So I was, involved the entire time.
Pitino, he loves to pull out the Yeezys, doesn't he? We were in a text chain the other day where we were sending it back and forth with some other shoe guys, and we're just sending Pitino, who's just sitting there recruiting, and he's got the Pirate Blacks on, and we're just dying laughing.
He was funny about it. He used to try to stun on everybody. He would walk in and kind of have a smirk on his face, but not say anything every time he had something cool on. And we were all just looking at him like, those Yeezys literally came out 2 hours ago.
He wore the turtle doves to coach a game, right?
Yeah, he loves stunting on people.
Oh my God. All right. So where can people find you, the tip sheet? Obviously I use it. Where can people find that and kind of interact with you?
Thehorsecapper.com right now, actually. So with all this pandemic going on, whatever you want to call it, I'm taking a break till next Friday at Santa Anita because, Gulfstream is what it is. Now that Churchill's open, all these guys are moving out anyway. So the racing has turned into, the summer spring meet at Gulfstream. So I'm going to start back next Friday at Santa Anita. Then obviously Churchill every day. So, but yeah, thehorsecapper.com.
Sorry.
Twitter and all that.
Well, man, I just want to say I appreciate you coming on. Maybe when it gets closer to Derby or some other things like that, we can have you back on and go through maybe there's a guy named Craig Shoebridge that likes to gamble with us. Maybe we can do a Derby preview or something like that with you. But I just want to say thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the 19.9 podcast with HVS, the High Volume Shooters. For more information, check out the blog at 19.9.com under HVS. And while you're there, do yourself a favor and pick up some retro college shorts. Till next time.